call the May 15th Town of Atherton City Council to order at 7 o'clock. May we say the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Weiss?
Here.
Councilmember Whitmer?
Here.
Vice Mayor Carlson?
Here.
Mayor Lewis?
Here. Councilmember Doughty is excused. We have a quorum. Before I open the meeting with our next agenda item, the presentations, I just wanted to have a moment of reflection and to let you know that a member of our San Mateo County Council, and council member in Millbrae, passed away very suddenly last week. Her name is Nadia Holiber. She was a tireless public servant for the city of Millbrae. She served 2 terms from 1999 to 2007. They had term limits, so she sat out for 2 years and then was reelected in 2009. And she was very, very active in the community. She also served 6 years on the San Mateo County Planning Commission, and she represented the county on numerous regional boards, of which I served with her personally on several boards, and as recently as May 6th, she attended an early morning meeting. She never said anything about her lung disease. She was very quiet. She was always active. She was a tireless public servant. So she will be truly missed, and I just wanted to give any other member of the council an opportunity to say something. I just wanted to also let our public know that we have lost a very, very dear person in our community. So, seeing no one, we'll go on to our presentations. We have 2 presentations this evening. We have Scott Barnum to speak on the ADAPT, and John Davey to talk about ACIL. So those are 2 acronyms, which I'll let the gentleman explain more in detail about what they are. Scott?
Sure. Acronyms can be good. Anyways, my name is Scott Barnum, and I represent a group called ADAPT, the acronym standing for Atherton Disaster Preparedness Team. And like the description says, we are a group of volunteer city residents. We've been working with you all for a number of years now on a variety of levels, but we focus on working with the town, APD, Menlo Fire, to help prepare and organize residents at the neighborhood and at the household level. That's kind of our little mission. And as you can imagine, disaster prep is not the sexiest, hottest organization in town. Nobody likes to talk about 7.0 earthquakes and wildfires and major floods. But I think over the years we've worked pretty collaboratively with the town and the first professional responders to make a little bit of a difference in organizing our neighborhoods and supporting the town and the county activities in emergency preparation. I am here tonight to basically talk about something good. It's not a criticism, it's not anything but just some accolades and some thank yous for a project that we recently completed with the town. To recap, you guys allocated some money for disaster prep in the 2012-2013 budget. This money was put under the auspices of Chief Flint and the APD, and ADAPT and Chief Flint and his team. We worked together over the course of about a year to identify how best to deploy these funds and then go about implementing, once we got to where we need to get, implementing the purchase of mobile emergency caches. We've bought 3 trailers, just a lot like the medical supply trailer, and we've equipped it with tools and other emergency prep equipment like generators and cords and the like, to be deployed at a moment's notice to wherever the need or the disaster or the emergency might be, whether it's West Atherton or Lindenwood or wherever, or all of the above. And this was a unique project. It's kind of I guess, a pretty good sign that the public and the private sectors can work together collaboratively to get something accomplished for the benefit of the community. I'd like to kind of personally thank you guys on behalf of our group for thinking about disaster prep. It's not high on a lot of lists, particularly given all the other priorities and demands that you have, but it's an important and never-ending need. I'd like to say thank you to APD, Chief Flint, Joe, Kristen Nichols, who we work very well together to figure out what to do, how to do it, who's going to do what. And so we thank you, Joe. Please send our appreciation to Chief Flint. And I think why John Davies is here, we'd also like to say an important thank you to the ACIL for their very generous donation of some funds to complete the equipment purchasing. It wasn't 100% on the town, it was also with donated funds that this whole project was completed. So I'd like to just have John say a couple of quick words about the ACIL and its acronym, as well as kind of why they decided to throw in some chips in this particular project. So, John?
Thanks, Scott. ACIL stands for Atherton Civic Interest League, so which has been involved in public-private partnerships since before it was fashionable. Now it seems like public partnerships, public and private partnerships are the new norm. And ACIL was founded in 1946, and many prominent Atherton residents have served on the board and been executives. In fact, Jerry Carlson is a former president of ACIL. We've supported many community activities, like disaster preparedness, which we're very happy to be involved in, and candidate forums and issue forums. We do our candidate forums with the League of Women Voters, and education foundations at Selby Lane, and we've been involved in, these are just to mention a few. I'm just going to conclude with please consider becoming a member of ACIL. Please consider joining our board. The only requirement is to be an Atherton resident and to have an interest in what's going on in the town. And again, we're very pleased to be supportive of ADAPT, and thanks very much for having us.
Thank you. So, before you guys leave, I just want to bring it to council. Do you have any questions or comments that you'd like to ask these gentlemen?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank both of you for the leadership roles that you've assumed, and it does take time and effort, and so thank you very much for all the time and effort you've been putting into it. Scott, I'd like to ask you about your committee, just in terms of the size of the committee and how it interacts with the larger organization, the fire department. The sort of the organization chart,
Well, ADAP has about 65 members in its Google group. There are probably about 15 of us who regularly meet once a month here in the council chambers to discuss a variety of things like this particular project. But it's mostly about recruiting neighborhood captains, if you will. The Menlo Fire has divided up the community into 16 different little neighborhoods, districts as they call them, and we've got 10 or 11, latest count, districts manned with a mini team, a captain of the neighborhood and then block captains. And these guys help each of their respective neighborhoods organize. because when the proverbial boot hits the fan, we're gonna have to work together. It's not, you know, it is a team thing, not just, you know, with the town and the community and residents, but within the resident community itself. We're gonna have to rely on one another in a major emergency like a whopper of an earthquake. We work with the Menlo Park Fire Protection District. Stephen Noxheim is on our committee, and he regularly attends our meetings, and we kind of have the good to and fro communication link back to Chief Harold. One of Joe's colleagues also attends our meetings so that we have good communication with the APD. And it's all about trying to get more people somewhat sensitized to disaster prep, getting their families, their households somewhat ready to be on their own without electricity, without utilities, for up to as much as a week. And we kind of take our cue from FEMA and a few other organizations. But we're kind of some lone rangers in trying to raise the banner of just being prepared. And major earthquakes are really what the biggest risk is to our community. And because we don't have a lot of first responders, and because we don't have an urban center and a light population, we're going to be a little bit out there on our own. So, you know, working together with the town, working together within the community as residents is key. Disaster prep is key so that we're ready when and if the disaster comes.
So is there any kind of a executive board or something like that that sort of ties Menlo Park and East Palo Alto along with Fire District and ourselves? Or?
No, we're kind of independent at this juncture. We know some of the people involved at the resident level. We've had a number of discussions with Palo Alto, who's probably the best prepared community organization in the area. But like John, if anybody wants to learn a little bit more about disaster prep, we are more than willing to take on additional folks and additional hands.
Any other council members like to say something?
Sure. First off, you know, Scott and John, thank you again for your service, and I know that we've done, in the years past, we've had large community groups, and I know that at the neighborhood level we've been doing, like for example, Lindenwood regularly has discussions about disaster preparedness group, and in fact even at their summer fete, they have the map up there saying who's here and everything. But there are some communities still that are still not as well organized, and I think that if we could publicize what those communities are and actively go get some people to sign up, I think that would be helpful, because we can't have, you know, certain large swaths of organizations still out there. I went to the first one a number of years ago when they had it at the pavilion, and they even handed out these little backpacks with some water and things like that. And I thought it was very, very well attended. And I know there had been, I think, one follow-on one, but it might be time for another one or plan. We maybe, as we're getting into our budget time, you know, I know those things cost a little bit of money, but it might be something worthwhile to raise the awareness, and also perhaps having some support from the media to publicize that, because it's really getting people aware. So so thank you both, and also, you know, and John, you know, the ACIL with the candidates forum is always very well attended, and so thank you guys both, and for your service and for thinking about the community.
Carrie?
Well, I echo the thank yous, and Scott, you know that this is something I've said to you, that we've got to do better, even though it sounds like we're doing good, but we've got to do better. And we're willing to work with you in helping, you know, us get better exposure, and you guys getting better volunteers, because we do know that the CERT program and the ADAPT program are changing constantly, and they're revamping their ways to try to keep the interest, because we're never really prepared for something when it happens. So, you know, just like we weren't prepared for a tree to fall on one of our trailers, but we learned, and we will continue to learn, and with our new web design and everything else, and I know that we're already putting you out there, we want to do more. So, and I know that, I'm sure I can speak for most of the council members here, or every council member here, we're going to do better, and, you know, we're here. So, thank you.
So we'll come forward through either Chief Flint or however the right process is with ideas and support for whatever it might be. But thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I'll make my comments really brief. I know that in, I think, District 10, Chuck Miles moving away, and
Yes.
he's going to leave a vacancy because he's a captain leader.
That's right.
And that was sent out via a social media, email, and so I got an email from a resident saying, what does this job entail? How can I get more information about it? So I think that it would be helpful to get more resident information out there, maybe using the social media networks that we have. And I know you're a busy guy, and you're doing all the things that you need to be doing, and I'm very grateful for that. But just one more thing to think about is, public outreach and how that can, grow, because we need backups.
That's right. Okay,
So,
thank you for that.
yeah, thank you guys, thank you John, and thank you Scott. So our next presentation is from Laura Finucci. Laura, come forward. She's the Associate Director of HIP Housing, and HIP is another acronym that I think she'll have to explain for us.
Okay. I can talk about a few things here and get started. So, first of all, if you thought disaster preparedness was boring, wait till I'm done with you. So, actually, my name is Kate Comfort Har. I'm Executive Director of HIP Housing.
Oh, you're not Laura.
No, Laura, actually, her daughter went to CCS and had a game down in Watsonville, so she wasn't able to make it, so I'm here instead. I'm very pleased to be here. HIP stands for Human Investment Project, and we are an affordable housing agency. And we have a brief PowerPoint here, as soon as it gets up and running.
You need to move it off, a little bit off.
A little over to the right.
Yeah, the monitor doesn't turn on the computer.
Oh, that's a problem.
Well, just type as you're looking.
And then to advance the slides. Okay. So HIP Housing specializes in providing creative, affordable housing solutions throughout San Mateo County, and we've been doing that for about 40 years. Next slide. What I'm going to talk about tonight is to give you a brief overview of what's happening in affordable housing within the county, and then talk about what HIP Housing's response is to that situation. Next slide. So San Mateo County is actually facing an unprecedented crisis in affordable housing. We are the second most expensive place to live in the country, second only to New York and tied with San Francisco. 1 in 5 families can't currently afford their housing situation, and 2,200 people, over 2,200 people, sleep homeless every night. 211, the United Way call for emergency services, takes more calls for housing-related services than for any other service. We have the lowest development of new affordable housing that we've ever had, and every Section 8 wait list, particularly the county Section 8 wait lists, are closed, and there are long lines and long waits, as much as 6 months to get into a shelter in this county. The increased demand in rental housing has come from a variety of reasons, one being the foreclosure crisis, which forced a lot of people out of their homes and into the rental market. As a result, we've seen an increasingly dramatic increase in rents. Right now, a 1-bedroom apartment rents in this county for $1,950. And also a new statistic that just came out, 86,000 people in this county, that's 12% of our county, are at the poverty level, which is the 30% below the average median income, meaning that for a family of four, they're making less than $34,000. We've had some other kind of perfect storm situations that have affected affordable housing. One was the demise of the RDAs, the redevelopment agencies, which a lot of people thought were sort of boondoggles, but they also provided funds for housing agencies and for social services that support housing agencies and housing needs. There's been over $1 billion in cuts statewide, and they're still coming. The federal HUD programs, we've seen a decrease in monies that have come to the cities and to the county of over 50%, and with now sequestration, that number is growing even higher, it's more like 60%. Also, there's been a Palmer decision, which has really put on hold. Cities used to have this tool that they use to require affordable housing in new developments. That's on hold right now as a result of the Palmer case lawsuit from 2008. So, with the money disappearing, with no really new avenues to pursue in affordable housing, what we've got is a stalemate. Now, there's a misconception about job growth in this county too. There's going to be a tremendous amount of job growth in this county, but it's not necessarily going to be high-tech, high-paying jobs. It's going to be for people making wages of $50,000 or less. The next slide. We're talking about school teachers, EMTs, first responders, bank tellers, retail, waitresses. In order to be able to afford a $1,950 apartment, you need to make $82,000 a year. And as this chart shows, we're the blue, Santa Clara County's green, and we're the blue. Teachers, EMTs, bank tellers, they all make far below $82,000. So what that means, is that we have a commute issue. We have 170,000 people commuting into this county every day to work. And what that creates is traffic snarls, traffic jams, and those at the lowest earning income levels, manicurists, nannies, people who work in our communities, are being forced to move out of the area, and as a result, commuting in, spending, if they're making minimum wage, spending as much as 70% of their salary and their earnings on commute and housing expenses. So what do we have then? Well, we have, with the housing shortfalls, we could potentially even have labor work shortages as well. And who's hardest hit? Of course, it's the low income, the senior, and those with disabilities. So what does that mean? That means we have to use what we have more efficiently and more effectively. And that's what HIP housing specializes in. Next slide. So our programs turn existing housing structures and existing housing stock into new affordable housing. We have 3 programs. We have a home sharing program, a self-sufficiency program, and a property development program. We have worked with over 60,000 residents in this county. We have placed 17,000 in housing through our home sharing program alone. We house about 1,400 people each year. 700 in our home sharing program, another 450 or so in our properties, and then about 250 in our self-sufficiency program. We field about 3,000 calls. That's actually an old number. That was from last year. We're fielding closer, we're estimating to be about 4,000 calls this year because the demand, we're up about 15% overall in our demand. So what is home sharing? Home sharing matches those who have space in their home with those who need a place to live. So typically we would see that a provider is in need of someone to live in their home to help offset the cost of living at home. For seniors, it would be for aging in place. And we have seekers who can't afford $1,900, who might be a school teacher or a home health aide, that would love to live in somebody's home and be a partner with them. So seekers can find an affordable place to live, while providers get both offset costs while also getting the advantage of having someone live in their home with them. We have a very thorough program. We've been doing this the longest. It is our showcase program. We do extensive interviews. Everybody has to come into the office and be interviewed. We call that our intake process. We do living together agreements, we do criminal background checks, we do income verification, and then once the matches are made, we supervise them. We provide case management, ongoing long-term case management for as long as that match lasts. And for seniors, we do regular follow-up to make sure that that senior is in a situation that they feel good about, because sometimes seniors won't tell you. So we do outreach to our senior community to make sure that the matches are working well. We can also do service exchange. So if someone has a disability or a senior doesn't want to be able to do or can't do their yard work, doesn't want to do their marketing, we can set up an arrangement where in exchange for a place to live, someone will do the services required in that household. So we are the only home sharing program in the county and one of the largest in the country. We serve about 1,900 people annually. Our average rent is about $650, give or take. We do provide that long-term case management, and we're funded by a wide variety of sources. We have individual givers, we have foundations, we have county support, and then we are asking that the cities all step in to help us keep this program viable, because someone living in Belmont could be partnered with someone living in San Carlos. Someone who works in Atherton could be partnered with somebody in Redwood City. It's a program that benefits everyone and uses existing housing stock. It just makes a lot of sense, but it's a very interdependent program. So in order to keep it alive and viable, we ask, as a fair share approach to this housing program, that every city engage with us. Right now we have 17 cities. So this is just sort of an example of who might share with a senior. A typical provider would be a senior, although not always. Sometimes it's an airline pilot who travels a lot and doesn't want to have their house empty. Sometimes it's a newly divorced person who doesn't want to lose their home and they're afraid to bring someone in. They've got small children. They want oversight to that process. They don't want to go to Craigslist. So there's a wide variety of folks that would participate in this program. But you might have a teacher that's matched with a senior. You might have someone who's working in the nonprofit area and maybe doing home health aid at night, partnered with someone who's a single parent. So it's a really diverse way to create community. It's really good for everyone. It prevents homelessness. At $650 a month, you can live in someone's home as opposed to living on the street because you can't find an apartment. It promotes independence for seniors and other peoples living with disabilities. It maximizes the existing housing stock without having to build or create new. And it helps people from all walks of life, building a sense of community. And frankly, it's the only game in town. There are no other affordable housing options really out there. So every nonprofit, every municipality, every social service agency refers to us because we can take everybody in. We don't turn people away, provided they meet our income and other requirements. So our other program is self-sufficiency. This is a welfare to work program, one of the top 7 in the state. We actually help people who have children, who are in school, who have identifiable career and job goals, to meet those goals by providing housing scholarships so that they can focus on schools and breaking their cycle of poverty. This really promotes financial independence, and if you go to the next slide, we provide the housing scholarships. We provide them with long-term case management, which means that we make sure that they have a savings account, we make sure that they have financial literacy, we make sure that they have parenting skills. We're working with them on a one-on-one basis from 1 to 5 years, depending on the length of their educational program. And then we also provide housing placement opportunities through our property development side. 100% of our graduates report a better housing situation when they come out of their program. The average increase in income is 81%. The average increase in savings is $1,300. When you think about it, these are people who are coming from shelters, so they had nothing when they came into the program. To come out with a savings account at all is huge, but to come out with housing, a job, and savings is a really remarkable feat, and turning their situation around and modeling that, most importantly, for their children. And 100% are happier. Property development, we own 14 properties from Daly City to a brand new property in East Menlo Park. We partnered with the city of Menlo Park to purchase this in July. We just had our open house last week. Our properties are all below market rate. We go in, we find, our specialty is really smaller properties that already exist. We take them, we purchase them with the partnership of the city, the counties, and other lending agencies. And then we rehab them and we rent them at below market rate. The property that we purchased in East Menlo Park on Willow Road was vacant for 2 years. It had a very bad reputation. It's in the Bellhaven area. But we took that property, we rehabbed it. We now have 12 families in there, all low-income families. There are 10 children living in that property now, 5 veteran households, and 1 self-sufficiency program participant. So we're able to take those property and make them a source of pride in the community using the stock that already exists. We're not developing new, we're not reaching out into something that doesn't already exist. We're trying to use what we have more effectively, more efficiently. So that's the gist of my presentation. I want to thank this council and this city for their support in the past of our programs. I know affordable housing may not seem like something that's relevant in your community, but for seniors aging in place, for the quality of life and services that we want to have in our community to make it a great place to live, it's really important to have your personnel living close. If you've got a teacher who's living in Hayward, it's so hard for them to get over a bridge every day to work. If you've got an emergency situation and your first responders live on the other side of a bridge, that's a challenge. So I just wanted to, again, thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Does any council member have a question that they'd like to ask? Jerry?
So if we had someone in town that was living alone but had extra space and so forth, might want to consider something like this and sharing the space with someone, how would they make contact, or who would they contact?
So first of all, if you take nothing else away from this presentation, then home sharing is a good program. I would be so happy. Right now we have a 6-to-1 ratio for providers to seekers. So we have more seekers than we've ever had. We're still placing as many people. So reaching out into the community to find people who might be interested in home sharing would be huge. All you have to do is call the office and we take care of the rest. So the phone number is on the bottom of my presentation, but I would be happy to provide you with that information. But just give us a call, drop us an email, but we'll field it right away, especially for providers. We'll do whatever we can.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much.
It's a very worthwhile program. We are members, or have been members of the Housing Endowment Regional Trust Board, the HART Board, and work very closely with it as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right. So moving on to our public comment section. This portion of the meeting is for members of the public who wish to address the council on any matter that is not on the agenda. And I know that we have our resident and high-speed rail expert, William Brindley, who would like to
Made
speak.
it in Los Angeles, becoming the world's expert on high-speed rail.
William, thank you.
Bottom line is, it's not been a good month or 2 or 3 for the High-Speed Rail Authority. Some of you, only some of you, are old enough to remember the Interstate Commerce Commission, which has morphed into something called the Surface Transportation Board. In late February, the Surface Transportation Board said to the High-Speed Rail Authority, gosh guys, we regulate rail traffic, we also regulate road and other traffic, and you haven't even come to talk to us during your existence. Your plans are therefore illegal. Your forward financing by the Federal Railroad Administration is illegal. We have jurisdiction over you. So instead of going to Washington hat in hand saying, "Mea culpa, please work with us because we're so transparent," they hired one of the high-priced law firms of Washington to sue the Surface Transportation Board. Not exactly in Dale Carnegie's book. Now, the Surface Transportation Board did issue a preliminary ruling that they have jurisdiction over the authority. The authority's plans with their lawyers are, you have no jurisdiction on us because we are only in California and you regulate interstate commerce, to which the Surface Transportation Board said, that's nice, but you're connecting into the rail system of the United States. So, where are we? Jim Jantz, who is known by many of you, he went to Washington, talked to the House Rail Subcommittee, and he and Charles Volz, who some of you know from Burlingame, have drafted a letter on behalf of the Community Coalition for High-Speed Rail in support of the preliminary decision by the Surface Transportation Board that they have jurisdiction. Citizens for California High-Speed Rail Accountability, a Central Valley group, hired several law firms to submit letters and briefs in support. Some of these are thick and the lawyers charged by the word. Kings County Board of Supervisors also backed the juridical authority of the Surface Transportation Board. So it looks like it's going to be a nice knockdown, drag-out fight to drag on the agenda, which, as many of you know, The continued pronouncements by the authority are, we are starting construction in July of this year. No, gee, that's 6 weeks away. Second item on the agenda is something by the name of the validation suit. You may not realize it, but everyone in this room has been sued by the governor of California. It's basically a way to say for either put up now, sue us now, or forever hold your peace. It's not exactly one more step in their transparency effort, nor is it a way to allow a democratic system to freely air all sides in an issue. Actually, Bill Connors knows quite a bit about this. Most recently, the Union Pacific, those guys over there, has weighed in on, and they say they have very serious issues with the validation suit, because if the validation suit cuts off any further discussion about critique of the project, Union Pacific would not be able to register its objections to what they plan to do with that bit of railroad and others. Third bad news is something called Burlington Northern Santa Fe, otherwise known as Warren Buffett's Railroad, has said to the authority that they've had a look at the alignments and uses of right-of-ways in the Central Valley. It seems like something between 20 and 47 or 40% of the alignments are actually on Burlington Northern Santa Fe property. Nobody's ever come to Burlington Northern Santa Fe from the authority to talk to them, and when Burlington Northern called up and asked for someone with authority to make some decisions, they were given to low levels in the authority. Mind you, they only have 50 employees. They plan to have 150 by the end of the fiscal year. And those low levels don't seem to have the time for them. I can't imagine Mr. Buffett being very hot on that answer. Third, and maybe many of you have heard about this, the bid rigging scandal is real. It is a real scandal. The senator, Dianne Feinstein's husband involved in that is not real. I don't know if you saw the Palo Alto Post that said Di-Fi's hubby gets rail contract. Well, that was not accurate. Dianne Feinstein's husband, Richard Blum, was an investor in the winning consortium, Tudor Perini, Saliba, and Parsons. He was an investor in Tudor Perini until about 2006 when he sold his shares, or they were hidden inside of one of her blind trusts. We're not sure about that, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Tudor Perini has actually, over the last decade, been banned from bidding on contracts in either Los Angeles or San Francisco. Those bans have been lifted in both places, to be clear, because they have a history of lowballing the price, getting the foot in the door, and then using a phalanx of lawyers to find holes in the contracts and therefore escalate the final prices far past the highest bidder through something